All right, let's go. Welcome everyone today to the Intentionally Book Club with Friends. We have our special guest here, Cary Carbonaro, author of Women in Wealth, which is available on Amazon. I have my copy here and Audible as well today. Before I do a big jump in, we're just going to make sure that we have all of our friends who are filing in have enough time to get acclimated while I go over the housekeeping items. But I'm so excited to have you here today and review Women in Wealth with the lovely Cary. So, just a few things. Introduction: my name is Ashley Taylor. I'm a director of client account strategy here at Intentionally and today's host. A big shout out, as always, to Intentionally CEO Kelly Waltrich and Tina Powell, who we all know and love, who conceived this idea of the book club to shine a light on transformative thinkers and authors like Cary in financial services and fintech space. Please ensure to subscribe to the Intentionally website to get the latest and greatest updates on all book club meetings and guests. I'm also going to drop a few links in the chat so you have these available to you for all of Cary's information. So if you don't follow her, you can follow her on social media. You can check out her website, and then you can also go purchase her book now, because I guarantee by the time this is done, you're going to have it in your cart and delivered in your door within 2 business days. A few other things before we get started today is that this book club meeting is being recorded. So if you are not in attendance today, know that if you registered or want to share this with other people, that this will be sent out at the completion of our webinar. It's also available to all participants, shared on YouTube as well. So don't forget to subscribe to Intentionally on YouTube, as well as subscribe to our newsletter so you can stay updated on upcoming book clubs. Lastly, if you are an author or have anyone else that you would want to recommend for our book club here, bookclub@growintentionally.com is the best way to reach out to us. And lastly, we appreciate your time and attention today. Understand that this program is educational and offers no financial advice specific to your circumstances. Please consult with your registered financial advisor. And without further introduction, I'm so excited to read this amazing woman's bio. Cary Carbonaro is an award-winning certified financial planner with over 25 years of experience. She's a managing wealth advisor and woman in wealth ambassador at Ashton Thomas, where she leads a multi-million-dollar financial planning practice focused on empowering women. Cary is the best-selling author of The Money Queen's Guide. If you don't have it, you need to get it. We can do this on another book club and read it together. And the book that we will be reviewing today, Women in Wealth, a playbook to empower clients and unlock their fortune, which offers actionable strategies for better serving women in financial services. Note this: it was #1 new release in wealth management and #1 in business, finance, and economics. A respected industry voice, she's been named as Investopedia's top 100 financial advisors list 6 times and is the first female of the 2024 NASDAQ Advisory Council. She has been a CFP board ambassador for over a decade. Through speaking, media appearances, and advocacy, Cary champions financial literacy and female empowerment. Welcome today, Cary. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. You've been amazing already on this whole experience of being on this book club with you.
Oh, I'm just blessed to have you here today. Let me tell you, reading your book was just so insightful for so many levels. Not being a financial advisor, it gave me insights on what, as I look for a financial advisor, what I would be looking for, what I hope for, and how I hope people do see me when it comes to my legacy and building out my life. But enough about me. Let's start with reviewing, again, Women in Wealth, shameless promotion. And if you're like me, you put a bunch of post-its in your book. So sorry if I've made too many notes, but let's start with the why. What inspired you to write Women in Wealth, and why now?
So I don't know how many of you know, but it's the main basis for my book. But women are going to inherit 2/3 of the nation's wealth by 2030, which is now 4.5 short years away. 30 trillion is the same amount as the GDP of the United States. So we're going from 1/3 controlling 1/3 of the wealth to 2/3 of the wealth. And then if you go out even further, like beyond, Cerulli says by 2048, it's going to be 57 trillion. So the numbers just keep growing and growing and growing. So I wrote this book as a playbook, meaning literally to teach all other advisors how to work with women, and as a rallying cry, guess what, guys? We might not be doing it the best way. And I'm gonna literally give you the keys to the kingdom of why you should be changing your playbook, because what worked in the past is not going to work in the future, because you're going to have a new client and it's going to be a woman.
Exactly. So we talked a little bit about this before we got on the call. So I'm excited to share this with our audience because we do have men and women here today. So I think it's important to address both demographics because I think this is what this book is essentially about, right? So who were we writing this book for? Was there a specific woman, client, or moment that you realized that this book is needed for the masses?
So I've known this book is needed for quite a while. I've been talking about the great wealth transfer for over a decade, and we are now 4.5 short years away, and we have still have not changed. The industry has not changed. We're still only 80% men, 20% women advisors, and most clients of wealth management are men, right, currently as we speak. So I knew that this great shift was happening and we have to get ready for it. So I said, I'm writing this book. I have to write this book. Like this is my life's work and I need to share it and change the industry with this book. So what I thought about was I really want to write this book for the male advisors. But what's interesting is the original title of the book was Compel Her, Don't Sell Her, a playbook
Mm,
to empower clients and unlock their fortune, which I think more men would be very interested in. Every time I say that to a man, they're like, oh, I like that title. So unfortunately, Wiley, my publisher, changed the title to Women in Wealth, a playbook to empower clients and unlock their fortune. And because of the shift of the change in the title, more women are interested now in the book than men. However, it is for both, 100% for both. It's for women who also, exactly like you, who are not advisors, but who want to know, what does a relationship look like with an advisor? What should I be asking? What should it feel like? And what are the questions I should be asking? So I have all of that in the book itself. And so it's for people who are not advisors and people who are advisors, male and female.
yeah. And just to note that for the people who are advisors on this call, when you're reading through the book, at the end of each chapter, there's a recap, but then there's also additional information around questions that you can be asking yourself as well as the clients to better yourself when you're building out your practice. So that's an important note because I started to answer these questions to myself. And I'm like, wait, I'm not managing clients, but I want to understand them, right? Um, so when you first start the book, one of the biggest things that you do talk about is your past marriage. And I want
Mhm.
to say thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest. And you talk about the challenges that and through the path through divorce that you faced. And then of course you found love. And that was my favorite part. I was like, yes, the redemption moment. But you also noted it took you 4 years to get out of this divorce. So one of the things that me and my friends always say is that your life partner is one of your biggest investments. For women who are picking their life partner, what is the highest risk financial decision, or what is when you're choosing a life partner as one of the highest risk financial decisions as a woman can make? What do you, as advisors, that you do? What do you do as advisors to protect your clients against the potential downfall of marriages or relationships? Or when you're seeing clients, for example, when you picked your one client up at the impound lot, what do you do in those situations to ensure that there's continued protection for them?
Yeah, first of all, what I always say is it's a very difficult discussion and you have to have it in the beginning before the marriage, or I can honestly 100% of the time when I'm sitting with a couple, I can tell if their relationship is going to make it or not. So I believe in prenups, and I believe in having the difficult conversations in advance. I talk about, getting financially naked with your potential spouse before you get
Mhm.
married, so you know what the skeletons in the closet are, because you're not just marrying them, you're marrying their money, their debt, their skeletons, their financial personality. If one's a spender and one's a saver, you're already going to have issues because you're going to be on two different pages. But it's a financial planning decision who you marry. So, choose wisely, because if you don't, you're going to pay. And I am a perfect example of paying dearly. I paid for years and years and years of my life because of making the wrong decision and marrying Mr. Wrong.
Yeah. But we found Mr. Right. So let's toast that. I believe is his name Steve? I believe
It
that's his
is,
name.
Stephen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was checking out all your socials, I could see that big smile together on all of your adventures, and it just brought me so much joy. I love love, so
Thank you. We love
um,
love too.
exactly. Okay, so as we're discussing, we talked about that this book is for men as well, but we're discussing women when we go through like how we need to handle the wealth transfer, but also women as not just clients, but not just as leaders, but as advisors, decision makers, and as we know, as the largest group poised to inherit generational wealth. What do you see as the biggest untapped strength women bring to wealth management as advisors and as clients as well for both their financial success and making the industry itself more inclusive and forward thinking?
So women think holistically about their money and their lives, and they care more about what it's going to do for them, and they want to change the world. Me being one of them, I want to use my money for good. So, women in general, when you meet with a woman, you can literally change the world with her and you can lay out these incredible strategies. And women care more about, you know, how is this going to affect me personally, my family, my life? How is this money what is it going to do for me versus, beating the S&P 500 or caring about tying, like they don't care as much about, um, I guess, the stats that men do, in the sense of, I don't talk about performance numbers I mean, of course I talk about performance, but they don't
Yeah,
care about it as much. They care about, how is this going to affect me? And am I going to run out of money? And am I going to be okay? And can I live the lifestyle I want? Can I donate to charity? Can I have a second home? Can my kids be okay? Are my kids going to go to the college that they want? All those types of things. So the money is tied to a purpose rather than just, growing money
just
for the
money
sake of
greed.
growing money. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's a little bit different, and it's a different mindset. So I believe that, women in general, are more, I don't know if you know this also, I have a whole chapter on it, but the women in charity, women are much more charitably inclined than men. So, tying money to altruism and what women can do to change the world is just a win-win-win.
I agree. There was a recent article because of Bezos' wedding where they talked about his ex-wife and how she's, I believe, donated not majority yet, but her goal is to donate a majority of her wealth by the time her time on this earth is done, instead of just accumulating it and just sitting on it. There was another article they're talking about Bill Gates kind of doing the same thing in the sense of he doesn't want to die rich. His goal is by the time that he dies is to have like a 99% negative net worth, because what is
Wow.
the purpose of dying rich if you can't if you can't spend the money? So it is interesting when you think of just the climate of like men and women in finances and like even what's projected out into the media, how we view accumulated wealth, right? You even talk about like cash hoarding a little bit as well, like how women are
Yes.
more inclined to do that opposed to men. So it's all these different like nuances, which I'm going to skip around a little bit on my questions, but one of the things that you brought up that I really, really loved, and I feel like I started to really see myself a little bit further. And actually, before I post that question or go over that question, I'm going to send out a poll question live for everyone. Um, Launching it now. What area of your financial life do you most want to feel more confident about? Investing in growth wealth, retirement planning, estate and legacy planning, and budgeting and cash flow. While you answer that, I'm going to go over another concept that Cary talks about in her book. For advisors who want to serve women, we talk about, or just people in general, the four money beliefs. Money mind is another way that we can focus on it, but how they shape relationships with wealth. And so, just to go over the four core money beliefs: money worship, belief that money brings happiness; money status, equating self worth with net worth; money vigilance, controlling spending and living frugally; and then money avoidance, rejecting the concept of money due to emotional distress. So, with all of those stages, how do you believe that these beliefs influence the way that people choose to save, spend, invest, and how exploring that these can help clients better understand their why and their financial decisions.
Sure. So if you really, when you think about it, a lot of our reactions and how we react to money is subconscious, right? We don't even think about it. We just make those decisions, right? And so when I was at United Capital, we actually called these, we had it called money mind. And so we equated these to, these money beliefs to money mind. And that was a quiz that we used to tell people was a 7-question quiz, and they would figure out what is their unconscious response to money. And, people would be in different buckets like fear, happiness, commitment, and then why people do the things that they do, right? So, for example, if I am money mind happiness, or I think that money spending gives me happiness, right? Then everything I'm going to do is related to probably overspending. And I don't care, because guess what? I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about right now. And
Yeah.
most people who are in that bucket tend to struggle with having enough money for retirement, or because they're living in the moment and they're living for the now rather than for the future. Now, the complete opposite of that is the fear money mind, which is very protective, and I'm never going to have enough, and I need to feather and nest my egg. I mean, make my feather my nest, make it bigger, make my nest egg bigger, and save as much as I can, invest as much as I can, almost never spend. And so that's the complete extreme opposite of that. Whereas then you're going to wind up with too much at the end, and you're not going to have lived or experienced life. And those clients are usually more of the clients that I'm working with, because they're coming to me because they have so much, and they also have a lot of fear around those
Yeah.
decisions. And so I'm supposed to be there to counsel them. It's okay to spend, it's okay to buy this, it's okay to go first class, when they're at the situation where they have enough. And then once you get to the enough, how do you then turn on the spigot of spending, which is another whole story.
Yeah, this is true. So I was listening to a podcast you were on, and I believe you said you save 50% of what you make. Is that
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm a fear money mind, if you can't tell.
I was listening to that. I was like, okay, where does she fall in this?
Yes. Well, and I'm trying to turn the spigot on, and it's very, very difficult. But I'm actually at the stage where I'm really, really working on it. I'm really working on turning that spigot on.
Yeah. Well, I think you are turning the spigot on, because then we proceed to talk about like the charities and the foundations and the scholarships that you set up at your alma mater. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like going through the book, I was learning so much about, finance and wealth management, but then also learning a lot about you and ways that like I can build my profile to be more like you. So definitely appreciate the stories. All right. So talking about men, let's take a step back when it comes to toxic masculine bro culture, which we're all familiar with. We've all experienced to an extent. Um, it still shows up in the financial services today, and I think it does impact some of the mindset and behaviors that not only it exhibits to the female counterpart, to our advisors as well, and what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but also how they go about finding their clients, which is something that we're really talking about, like not seeing women for who they are. What do you think is the key step for the industry to move in the right direction, to not miss out on this opportunity over the next 4 to 5 years with the great wealth transfer? What do you think needs to disrupt the bro culture?
So, well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that it exists, and that it might not be female friendly. So that's like step one, is just admitting that there's a problem, right? And a lot of industries and firms don't even see that there is anything. Like, for example, I remember when I was at United Capital, and we had our annual managing director conferences, there would only be golfing events, and that's it. And I'm like, I don't play golf. I don't want to play golf. That's like, it's a male
Yeah.
thing, and it's okay. I mean, some women play it. I just don't. I'm not one of them. And I'm like, you need to add a spa option. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you need to add a spa option. And they did. And then they added a spa option. And then, I also petitioned them with I did a white paper on the great wealth transfer and said, we need to have a whole women's leadership division. And I told them the dollars and cents of why, and then I actually got it. And so we had it. We were moving the needle. We were doing all these great things. We were changing the client experience. We were making it more female friendly. It was already female friendly to begin with because it was very behavioral finance focused and really ahead of its time at the time.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because, so I guess just first acknowledging that there's a problem. Second, having the management know that, they're going to put dollars and resources behind this initiative, whatever that means. If it means having a women's leadership division, having a women's initiative, having a women in wealth ambassador to, focus the attention of the firm in that direction, having a DE&I, even though that, of course, that word is totally out of favor right now. I just won DE&I Trailblazer of the Year, and I told them it needs a new name because it's obviously the name is out of favor. But anyway, and so there's a lot of things that need to be done. And also just in general, the, young girls coming in, are, uncomfortable if they have to go to meetings late at night at a conference, where everybody's drinking and it's super uncomfortable. Like, so I always say,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't go to like, everyone's like, we're meeting at the bar afterwards. I don't go. I don't go. I don't put myself in situations where people are drinking and it's late at night and it's something's not great's going to happen, and it's really an uncomfortable situation for women. And guys don't even realize that it's a thing.
They don't. And it's interesting that you say that because I always like make the joke like, oh yeah, I'll go to happy hour for 2 drinks and I'm on my way home. Because past that point and past a certain time, there's no reason for me to be there because of how things can escalate. And not saying
Right.
that they do in every situation, but it's good to have
Right.
these protections. But I do think that this is something that women have to take into consideration when they are in male dominated spaces that men don't necessarily like think about, right? They're not thinking if they're working for an all woman company that I shouldn't be out drinking at happy hour with all of these women. Like, what's the worst that could really happen to that man in that situation, right? So it is important for the bro culture to be disrupted in order for change to happen. Because another thing that people see also is when the husband's no longer there and you are working with a woman, how many women leave the financial advisor, right? It's 70%. And
It's
so
actually, they say 70 to 90. So let's split the difference and
oh,
say
yeah, 70
80%.
to 80. So 80%, which is like,
Right.
it's crazy when you think of the majority of people who are just not seizing this opportunity. And essentially, bro culture, in my opinion, is associated with ego.
Well, and in the book, by the way, the chapter is actually called Bro Culture and Lawsuits. So I
Yes.
actually call out every lawsuit that has happened in this industry related to gender, and it's greater than you think. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, when I was starting to, I actually calculated the millions that turned into trillions that people have had to pay out based off these lawsuits. It's just all very avoidable. So just to share our first poll of the day, again, it says, what area of your financial life do you most want to feel more confident about? Investigating and growing wealth, retirement planning, estate and legacy planning, and budgeting and cash flow. I see a majority of you are in estate and legacy planning and budgeting and cash flow. So my next question for you today, Ms. Cary, is in chapter 21, you discuss the power of life changes and transitions. And this is more of a specific advisor question, like divorce, career shifts, or caregiving. You use those as opportunities to have deeper financial conversations with your clients. How can advisors turn these moments into opportunities to build trust and truly align planning with what matters most to their clients?
Okay, well, first I'm going to take the first part of that, which is divorce and widowed. So in my chapter, I talk about all the women's life events, and I have like a circle of life events for women. Unfortunately, our industry for the past, however long the industry's been around, 50, 60, 70 years, we've only looked at women in two categories, divorced or widowed. Women are more than divorced and widowed. We are a whole host of other things. So there's all these different life stages for women. And if you are not addressing them, you're missing entire stages of life for women. You know, women are, and one of the things I always talk about is menopause, which is a huge stage of life for women, where women sometimes, quit their jobs, change their life changes in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of things going on physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of the above. And so, are you talking about menopause with your clients? And when I
Yeah,
say that, men freak out, but even women freak out because they're like, what? And I'm like, no, no, it's a life event you should be discussing.
it's
So
important.
it's super important, but there's all these other different stages that you should be helping your female clients with, like, women who are trying to get pregnant and freezing eggs. And you could do a whole thing on, the whole generation of
IVF.
women
Yeah.
in their 30s and 40s, freezing eggs, even 20s. Some are even doing it in their 20s. But so like that's like a whole segment. But anyway, the whole point of this is that women are not just divorced and widowed. There's all these different life events for women. And guess what? The deeper you go with your clients, the more loyal they're going to be with you. And they're going to be with you for the rest of their lives because the women make the best clients. That's the other thing. I'm convinced women, and my practice is 80% women, 20% couples. And out of those couples, most of the couples are the women is the primary breadwinner. So I have, very strong women in my practice. And what's interesting is I don't know, we're not really talking about this on this call, but I moved my practice 4 times in 5 years with 100% retention. And when people hear that, they flip out. And it's because of me talking about all these life events with my clients and getting
Yeah.
that deep.
Do you ever have so not to put my sister's life out there, but my sister is she's in her early 40s and she's actually going through experiencing premenopause symptoms. Is this something that also comes up for your clients? Because I feel like there's definitely more research around premenopause and how it does affect women's behaviors and emotions and all of the things that menopause kind of kicks off. But there's this pre-stage that we also experience too. Is this when these conversations are happening around?
Oh yeah, you could start them. You could start them now. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a new book that just came out called How to Menopause by Tamsin Fadal, and it addresses. There's a whole chapter. There's multiple chapters on perimenopause as well.
Yeah, it's like
Mhm.
it's crazy to even think about, and just like women are starting to experience in their late 30s, early 40s. So definitely something to keep our eyes on when it does come to just like the changes in women. I find that so interesting. Again, I work with financial advisors every day, so there's so many things in this book that brought to light that I'm like going to share, wordsmith for
Mhm.
my clients and share with them. So we're talking about it now from the front end on the client side, but on the back end, as a CFP, you have decades of experience in this industry. You are forced in every which way that you step on the stage. For my question for you is like, there still is this persistent wealth gap that women are being faced with. Although there have been strides in other countries, which you do note as well in the book, different organizations in different places, specifically London, you had mentioned about their change and inquiring laws around ensuring that women are paid adequately. What do you think needs to be the first step for not only just women, but women of color to be paid what they're worth?
So the first thing which we don't have, which we really need, is pay transparency. And, other countries have it, we don't. So, it's so interesting because as a financial advisor who, is a rainmaker, I eat what I kill. And so I always thought, I'm not subject to pay discrimination at all because I, get my own clients and I do my own thing. And then it was so interesting because there was a survey, it was called Motto, and it was how much would I make if I was a man in this field. And so I did it, and it said I would make 90% more if I was a man. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, what? How is that even possible? But it's unconscious bias, implicit bias, and just things that are, keeping people from working with me for whatever reason, that, as an advisor. I had a client once who we were doing a promotion where we were giving out an hour of my time with and it was when I was at United Capital back in the day. And I had a client of mine who said, "Oh, I gave it to my girlfriend, and she said I will never work with her because she's a woman and a man can take care of my money better." So there you go.
That's like, it's always your own that gets you. Like, that's just so crazy to me to say. Just because I know for me, like even seeking like doctors, I want a woman dermatologist. I want a woman, and no shade to men in these professions, but there's a level of comfort that I feel when I walk into a room and I see someone who represents or looks like me. So that's
Right.
so interesting to hear a woman say that. And obviously that's something that like we hear and we know, but this brings me to my next question. I'm actually going to also push our next polling question through. What motivates you most to take action for your finances? Cary mentioned that a lot of her clients sometimes are coming to her, not, I don't want to say necessarily in distress, but they're going through something or experiencing something. So this question I thought would be really good. I'm going to launch it over to you. Gaining independence and peace of mind, providing for your family and future generations, which goes again with legacy planning, achieving specific life goals, and then overcoming past financial decisions. Why that question goes, I want to come back to the idea of community because within your book, you also note several charities. You also note several women who are forces within this industry, including Dorothy Hinchcliffe, Jerry Lynn Klein, Kathleen Kingsbury, Susan Syracuse. And even before our call, we talked about our love and how spectacular Tina Powell is. So again, shout out. I love you, Tina. But I want to talk about how this,
Yeah.
but how did this community shape your journey? And what advice would you give women who are looking to build a meaningful professional relationship in this industry?
Well, first of all, you need other women. Like women need women. We all need each other. You need to find your tribe, right? Like, period, like you need to find a tribe. So I have always been my entire life, my one thread in my life has always been helping women. Like I look back, like there's a book called The One Thing, and I look back on the thread of my life, and it has always been helping women. When I was in college, I started a sorority because I was founding president of a sorority because I wanted women to feel safe at college. And there wasn't a good sorority it wasn't a national sorority when I got there. So I did that. Then when I started working right out of college, I wanted to work specifically with women because I was like, wait a minute, women are not talking about money. They're not learning about money. It's not something that women talk about. It's just not something that we, talk about with our friends. And so I wanted to change that. And then and now I want to change the industry for women. So like, it's my driving force in my life. But the whole point of this is that we need to show up to help each other, to share, to support each other's strengths and share each other's successes. And we are 1 + 1 = 11 when you're talking about women, because we are so much stronger together and we can help lift each other up. And it is what I completely believe in. And I support all these women in my life. And I'm one of those people that like are still friends with like my friends from like elementary school, from like
Yeah.
kindergarten. So like they're still like, once you're a friend, you're a friend. So like this is what I believe in, and you need your friends in this industry. So start your tribe now.
I agree with you. And I feel like I'm so fortunate. I see so many like spectacular women, and I work for spectacular women here at Intentionally who just drive the boat forward. And I always say that like you can work for a small company and that company can have 10 people, but if 9 of them are women, you're doing the job of 100, because the way that we think, the way that we move, the way we talk in our execution is just, it's just top tier. So moral of the story, you're a girl's girl and always have been.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I agree with that. Um, so when it comes to advisors, I mentioned the questions that you're asking your advisors throughout the book and in each different section. But when it comes to advisors and it comes to self-reflection, what do you think is the toughest thing that we can say men or women have to do when it comes to asking themselves the hard questions and to make shifts with their advisory practice or even own clients?
can you, I'm sorry, can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
like no, it's okay. Like the hard shift. So, like, what questions do you think are important for advisors to ask themselves? Like, it could be specifically men or
Oh yeah,
women.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that, do I treat women differently? And how do I even know that I'm doing that? Right. So for example, one of the things in the book is there's a quiz. It's Kathleen Kingsbury, my friend, who I borrowed with permission. And it's how female friendly is your practice? And it's a 20-question quiz to look to see, are there blind spots? Then there's also, am I using implicit or unconscious bias? And there's also a quiz in the book from Harvard, it's not mine, where you can go and click and take the quiz to see where your blind spots. So what am I doing? Like, I might not know what I don't know. And am I turning off that woman? Is that woman going to leave me when the spouse dies? And, has that happened to you in the past? And if so, then guess what? You should definitely examine this now and do, you know, one or 100 things that are in my book, because I'm going to tell you all these different steps to take so that you can change your experience for women.
Agreed. Do you think, this is random, but like, do you think that people are willing to make this change, like from the industry individuals that you know?
So I think everybody who's reading the book, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's the people that are not reading the book that the answer is they don't think they need it, or maybe they, haven't lost clients yet, or maybe their business is, not contracting yet, or maybe they are going to wait till 2030 when things completely shift, or, I would say we should start doing it now. I'm saying it's $1 trillion opportunity. I'm handing you the keys to the kingdom of $1 trillion opportunity. All you have to do is take it.
I had to just change just a little bit. Look inward. So just to push the results from our last polling question, we see a majority of people are looking to gain independence and peace of mind when it comes to their finances. I think I definitely agree with that for sure. I'm always trying to move in direction of my own independence financially, and that comes over time. But also, what we're learning, it comes from like your advisor seeing you and working with the right person. All right. So my final question for you today, Cary, is if readers, advisors, or women could walk away with one urgent call to action from your book to truly serve and empower women, but also themselves financially, what would it be?
So this is kind of a twofold, because I have two answers based on,
Hmm.
the audiences. So if I'm a woman or a man who's not an advisor and I want to be financially secure, um, you need to be 100% ownership of your own financial future, especially as a woman, because 90% of the cases you're going to be responsible anyway, if you want to be or not, either by being a widow or divorced. So, not somebody else is not going to take care of it for you. I want you to own it. I want you to own your own financial future. And I want you to either, if you can't do it yourself, I want you to get with a CFP that you can work with, that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, that trust in your gut. And, you take the book, ask the questions, read the book to see what questions I should be asking my advisor. What should this relationship look like? And then, because guess what? They're going to be your advocate and your coach, and they're going to get you to where you need to be so that you are financially free. And somebody said to me recently, what is financial freedom to you? And I said, financial freedom to me is making more money from my passive income and investments than my day job. That's
Yes.
financial freedom. And that's what I want for everyone. Where you don't have to work unless you want to work. It's your choice, and then that's the greatest place to be. Now, as far as advisors go, what I would like them to take away is just acknowledge that women are different than men, and you are going to need a different playbook. And if you're using the same playbook for the men, just read the book and see there's 150, maybe 250 things in the book to do to change the way you're speaking, writing, whatever, marketing. There's a lot of incredible information in there to help you achieve this goal and work with this incredible next population, which is women.
The first part, I feel like we were having a private conversation because that is so important. I just want to like give you all one last look of the book, Woman
Mhm.
and Wealth. If you don't have it, definitely check it out on Amazon, and it's also on Audible as well. I also want to say thank you, Carrie, for taking the time to not only go over your story, but also sharing it with the world and making your life's work something that's enjoyable and something that we all need. Because at the end of the day, like the voice of the woman wants to be heard, and the more content, the more people we have advocating for us, the more likely we will see change and growth in this industry and the world in general, and how we are supported and nurtured and cared for. I want to say thank you to everyone here. As always, I appreciate you joining our book club. It is always a pleasure to connect with all of you and have you here to hear the amazing stories of those who are joining and publishing some thought leader content that really is changing the industry. Look out for the next book club. Information will come soon for September's. I hope everyone has a really great summer and have a great day. Thank you so much, Carrie.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.